Want Owen while waiting for Linda? Yeah, we might as well start with Owen.
Oh, she's not here. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Owen, I don't know how it...
Owen Roisman.
Roisman?
Yeah.
Okay.
Owen.
And he, what did he do for The Exorcist?
He was the cinematographer.
Sweet.
Yeah. Which I think does all the... What exactly does the cinematographer do?
He does all the camera stuff.
Everything with the camera. He's in charge.
Right? He does he looks through the lens.
What's the cameraman?
Yeah.
But is he...
There's the director of photography.
Yeah, he makes sure that it looks good.
What's so special about that?
Dude, it's so well shot.
Because if it doesn't look good...
The director doesn't do shit.
The director actually depends on the cinematographer.
You looming over me like impending doom.
Yeah, I know. You really are just lurking back there, Mars.
Samoan.
What's wrong with you, Mars?
What are you doing?
Do you like Linda Blair? You getting
What are you-
excited?
what are you-
What do you got? Why don't
what
you
are you
sit over
lurking
there
over
where they are?
Yeah.
Sit
Exactly.
where the Puerto Ricans sit.
Beat it once.
floor.
Beat it once with Warriors.
Yeah, go to Shade 45.
That's right. Beat it.
Why don't you get a tribal tattoo across your cheek?
Exactly.
You got any tattoos?
No, sir. None.
Fascinating.
You look like the Rock with AIDS. Thank you.
Now, where's the guy?
He's coming.
Where's the guy?
Where's the guy? Where's Owen? He's coming?
Right there.
I don't know.
We don't know much.
So,
And they're,
you know, The Exorcist 1 was unbelievable, and The Exorcist 3 was a fucking great movie.
It was the sequel to 1.
Now, 2
Yes, it
wasn't
was.
that.
3 was
great. 2 wasn't that good.
3 was good.
3 was,
It was
the fucking
horrifying.
old lady crawling on the fucking ceiling.
Yeah.
When did 3 come out?
That's kind of
It was based on a book called Legion by Blatty. It came out in I want to say 1990.
That's kind of creepy.
Really?
I think 1990.
20 years ago already.
And the story was
3 really was good?
3 was scary,
great.
dude.
No
Me and
movie.
my buddy
No,
Kenny,
3
right? I
being
rented
good.
it as a goof,
Right.
Yeah.
and it fucking was horrifying.
No movie with a 3
the
at
original-
the end, you know, was good usually.
The original priest from the first one was in it.
Yes,
And,
as was and it was George C. Scott played the part of Kinderman, who was actually Lee J. Cobb in the original, but he died. So they just kind of picked up the role with him.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was really good though, but it was a continuation of 1.
Hello,
Oh, he's
Owen.
on the,
How are you, sir?
so we gotta put you on the couch there, buddy. Thanks, Owen.
All right.
Make them all.
How are you?
Giving you the best seat in the house,
On a
Owen.
radio station, so
What happened?
it's my first time in a radio station like this.
Oh, really?
Like this?
You don't.
Yeah.
Like
You,
a radio station.
You never been on?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
Well,
the
welcome.
definitely this one.
the cinematographer for The Exorcist, we were just talking about how well the movie was shot. You're in charge of everything visual.
Generally, yes.
And you shot a behind-the-scenes kind of documentary, which I watched, and it was unbelievable. It's part of this new Blu-ray.
Right.
It's
That-
really
that they're promoting
fantastic.
today. Sure.
It didn't seem as scary on the set as you would have imagined it was.
Well, you know, when you're working on a set, it's not going to be scary because you're just telling a story. You're technically and artistically trying to get that story across to the audience. And we don't get scared by the material.
But just the fact that Linda Blair, they show her sitting there sipping a milkshake, and it's just odd to see that horrific makeup on somebody who's enjoying a milkshake.
And it's a little kid. It's
Yeah.
not like it's a little to see a little kid look that crazy. That didn't freak you out at all.
Well, that's acting. I mean,
Yeah.
that shows that people, when you say cut, they become normal. When you say roll camera, they get into character.
Right.
And that's a sign of a good actor.
Sure.
Yeah, it's amazing with CGI. Like, you get so used to things being perfectly inserted through computers, and you guys had none of that. You had no ability to insert anything. It all had to be just done there, and if you couldn't pull it off for real, it just couldn't be shot.
That's the way it was.
What was the hardest shot you did?
It's hard to say one shot. One of the most challenging shots was the arrival of the Exorcist in front of the house, the one that the poster was taken from.
A lot of light coming from behind him and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But the exorcism itself was very difficult and very time consuming because we had to refrigerate the set in order to see the breath,
All right.
to show it was a cold room. And to do that, we had these huge refrigeration air conditioning units running, and they were extremely noisy, and you couldn't work with them on. You certainly couldn't record sound. So we had to shut them down while we shot, and as soon as you shut them down, the room warmed up very quickly. So it was a process of cool down the room, get everybody off the set, then when it gets cold enough, and we had to cool it to about 20 below zero.
Oof.
Because normally you could see breath at maybe 40 degrees, but there's the humidity, and that's what causes the breath. As soon as you put air conditioning units on, you're dehumidifying also. So you had to get it extra cold. So we shut down the set, and everybody would leave, wait till it refrigerated down to 20 below, bring everybody back on the set, turn the air conditioners off, and then shoot one of the shots. And then it would warm up right away and have to clear off. So you can imagine how time-consuming that was.
Were you happy with the final product? I mean, were you happy? I shouldn't say that. Because they added now, this is like an extended director's cut, which has a whole bunch of stuff and scenes that weren't in the original or even in the re-release director's cut. Did you think that they made? I know there was like a lot of, I guess, at one point, bad blood between William Peter Blatty and Friedkin over the fact that Friedkin had cut some of what Blatty thought should have stayed in the final product.
That was between them.
But what did you think, though, as somebody who had been there? Because I'm sure you saw the uncut. Did you think that it hurt the film to take the stuff out of it, or was it the right move?
You know what happens when you shoot a lot of things, and there's a lot of things that hit the cutting room floor. And when the picture first comes out, you may look and say, what happened to that scene or this scene or anything else? But very quickly, within a short time, you forget that you even shot those other scenes. So the director, when he's going into the editing room and coming up with the final product, makes the determination of what's going to work best in the best time frame. And in this case, Billy made some great choices. And Blatty, of course, had some other ideas about some of them. But as far as the film went, let's face it, it worked.
There's one scene that was really cool that they tried to, because like they finally talked, I guess, to put this project together. And Friedkin said, I'm going to put back in these things that you want back in to re-release. And there was one scene that they wanted to put in where Linda Blair and her mother and Ellen Burstyn go, and they're watching the march of soldiers in front of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And they said they really wanted to put it in because she goes, Mother, why do people have to die? And they just thought that was a great line, but they couldn't find the audio. So they showed in the documentary.
really?
You just see the video of them talking, but there's no sound. They're like, we couldn't find the sound.
Find
They
the audio.
lost the sound
Wow.
from a scene to The Exorcist.
And then they added a scene back in where she's actually coming down the stairs, like crab-like.
Yeah.
How do you pull that off without CGI?
Well, that's why it wasn't in the original. We had her on wires.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of other shots on wires, too, that I was able to camouflage, and you couldn't see the wires. Her levitation was on wires.
Wow.
And you couldn't see them because I had a little special trick I was using in lighting it. But for some reason, that spider walk, we called it, you couldn't quite hide the wires completely, so they couldn't use it. As soon as we had CGI available, that's why Billy added it back in the extended cut.
So take the wires
I
out, right?
take the wires right out.
Oh, yeah, that's
right
a
out.
simple thing now.
Yeah.
When I saw how they did, I almost wished I didn't want to know how she floated, because when she floated, well, like when Karis just looks up and realizes she's floating, that's a horrifying scene because you look for shadows, you look for anything that will give away how, and you can't see it. I've seen that movie at least twice. You can't see. And when I found out that they just painted the wires, like they painted like the wire dark and light, because they said that wouldn't be picked up by camera. It was some genius.
That was a
Amazing.
little trick I learned.
Oh, that was you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess I feel like an ass then. I'm giving other people credit.
Trick to
They
learn.
say.
What did
Him.
you? What movie did you start your career on?
I had shot a small film that was never released, and it's in a square can on the shelf at Warner Brothers. And then Billy Friedkin got to see a few reels of it, and from that he offered me The French Connection. So The French Connection was the first film I had that was released.
Pretty amazing.
Not a bad start, right?
Yeah, that's a good start.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't know what the difference between a DP and a director are.
Well, DP is the girl has to be willing to do it.
No, that's terrible. I mean,
Director,
photography, cinematographer, director. Because a lot of people just believe the director is pretty much the boss. He does everything. And on sets that I've been on, I've noticed the director not doing as much as people really think that they're doing.
Well, they do plenty. I mean, they're the ones that are calling the shots, and they select the people that are working on the picture.
But the look of a movie, that's really the director of photography, I would gather.
Generally, it is. It depends on the director. Some directors are very visually oriented, and they steer everything in the direction they want it to go visually. but the director of photography is in charge of creating the lighting, and usually the camera setups and composition, choosing the lenses, the camera movement, things like that.
Now, someone like Kubrick, who has a very original look that you can tell it's a Kubrick movie, I would assume he's a little more hands-on as far as lighting goes and whatnot.
Sure, Kubrick's like that. Ridley Scott is like that.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Tony Scott to some degree. There are several directors in that category.
Have you been on sets where you've just been like, "Oh, brother, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Let me take over the helm."
No comment.
Okay, that does happen occasionally, I
Pretty
guess.
obvious.
You also did one of our favorite films, Network,
Love
yeah.
Network.
which is it's almost more impressive now than it was at '76 because when you see what Chayefsky saw coming back then, no concept of reality TV or this making these newscasters, these editorializing boobs, basically. What a brilliant foreshadowing.
Well, Patty was amazing. He was an amazing writer and great human being. So that was by far the best, and with all due respect to every writer that's ever written a screenplay that I've read or worked on, that was the best script I ever read, without question.
Yeah, it really is amazing. Did you guys realize that Finch was about to win an Oscar while he was performing, or was it...
You never know when you're working on a film, and you don't really think about it. You don't think about Oscars and winning awards or anything like that. That's just a byproduct of and the gift from working on a good project.
Well, I know, too, because my part in Fairy Vengeance, which came out recently, it was a big summer smash.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about the end result. I was just thinking about the performance while I gave it, which was shit.
Some people do that too. Now, usually it's that's the reward, but we don't work thinking about that. That's just something that happens. You're lucky.
Was The Exorcist the first horror movie of that kind that actually had the effect on the audience? I mean, people would pass out and scream and had to go to the hospital in the theater. They had to take people out in ambulance when they went and saw The Exorcist. So this is like the first movie that ever did that to audiences as far as horror movies?
I don't know the answer to that personally. But
Did it
there's been horror movies from way back when. You know, you had Frankenstein and
Yeah,
Dracula.
but nothing like this where people were literally freaked out in the movie theater.
Well, it's a tribute to Bill Blatty's screenplay and his book. I mean, it was amazing, and it did that. If you read the book, that's the way it read.
But did you know when you were shooting this, did you be like, dude, this is going to fuck a lot of people up? You know what I mean? Like, this is some crazy shit we're doing.
Well, we knew what we started with. We had that amazing book to start with, and the same guy that wrote the book wrote the screenplay. So we knew we had good material, but I don't think anybody had an idea of how powerful it would end up being.
Well, the makeup went into it as well. I mean, the makeup was so believable. And the interesting part in one of the documentaries is they said they wanted Linda Blair to remain identifiable. Like, they didn't want to put a mask on her. They wanted it, you're looking, going, this is the little girl who was in the beginning of the movie. And so she still had that face, just with those perfectly placed scars. It's one of the most, understated makeup jobs ever. It was really great. Her teeth were all dirty. Yeah. Just fantastic.
Dick Smith did the makeup, and he was the king.
Well, they said the medical scenes were the ones that got people. It was the people that went. It wasn't the devil stuff. It was the medical when they had her in the hospital, and they were putting her through all the medical procedures. That was what sent people out sick.
Really?
Yeah.
Like the CAT scans
And the blood coming shooting out of her.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. And that's the time Linda was drinking malted or a milkshake or whatever.
Oh, right, yeah. She was up there having a milkshake.
Yeah, bring her in. We got Linda Blair outside the studio.
Linda Blair. Who's that?
Sure. Who's that? Hello. Hi. Get comfy. Have a seat. Get all
How are you?
comfy.
Hey, baby.
Fabulous. How are you?
Good.
We're doing good, man. Talking about The Exorcist stuff.
Hey, baby.
Yeah.
Such a nice little photo. We handed out the Linda Blair World Heart Foundation. We got flyers when she came in for animal and human. Her holding up little puppies for.
Little
It's just such a
puppies.
different image of you.
Yeah, really trying to slip that image of little Reagan.
You're ripped. You're in good shape, Linda Blair.
Thank you.
I mean, that's a compliment. I hope you.
Thank you.
She's beautiful, too.
Yeah, she is.
Aw, you're very kind this morning.
It's me, Linda. That's why I'm saying it.
Yeah,
There it is.
look
my
who's back there.
man.
You didn't know that was Owen?
I love Owen. We had a great day yesterday.
Yeah.
I got you
Doing a lot
part of the
press.
boys' club.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's that?
Billy Friedkin, Bill Blatty, Owen Roisman, Chris Newman.
We
It's
want.
amazing.
How come they didn't come? We were hoping. I'm really a bit disappointed at Friedkin and Blatty because I wanted to meet them as well. Are they just not doing press in New York today?
They're getting ready for tonight.
What's tonight?
It's the big premiere at the Museum of Modern Art.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So they're getting ready for that. It takes a lot of energy because they'll do a Q&A and everything.
Sure.
The documentary was really good. We kind of covered this before you came in. We watched a bunch of the. We got an advance copy, and the documentaries were really interesting to watch your relationship with William Friedkin, the director, how he handled you, which was basically joking and teasing you into doing some horrific things.
Well, I think what's most important is that finally, after 30 some odd years, when people have asked me the same questions over and over, you know,
again.
about the pea soup, about the head spinning, about the levitation, and they're all the same
Power of
questions
Christ.
that I asked, years ago. I mean, it's a common question, but finally people are getting to see how we did it, and the special effects, and the makeup, and everything that was involved. Owen Royce, without Owen's brilliant cinematography, you could not have made the film. So it was every element that was involved. And no matter how much I spoke about it and just said, I was normal. It's a job. No one could believe me. So now they get to see firsthand. I think the DVD, the Blu-ray is brilliant.
It's weird to see you putting the contacts in. They show her putting in the
Yeah.
white because they couldn't CGI it out. So she's putting in those white lenses that her eyes are rolled back, and it was like, oh, she's just a normal girl.
But that's the whole. Everybody gets to see the process and how we did the makeup, and they get to see the mechanics of the dummy. And no, I mean, contrary to popular belief, after all these years, I really can't spin my head around. So finally, it
Disappointed.
proves what I've been saying for so long.
Sure.
But I think that when I watched it, it's like, okay, finally, people are going to get it. And then they'll ask me another set of questions, like they might ask Owen. Well, in the lighting, how did you do? When you see that he basically created the Steadicam. Even I didn't realize. I remember seeing some of the equipment that they used, and the audience will be able to see all of that, where all the cameras and the lighting and the things, and that I'm sort of in the middle of it, in the mix, and it took months, weeks and months to put all of these different shots and scenes together. It wasn't just like a play. I think a lot of people think we just acted it all out and that they filmed this experience and maybe it really happened. I'm really not sure how the audience sees it from the questions they ask. It was so intricate to make it.
The Steadicam, to interrupt you, you mean when it was the scene when they were running up the steps?
Sure.
Yes.
And they had they just filmed them from the base all the way up the stairs.
Owen, was that one of the first times the Steadicam was used?
Well, it wasn't a Steadicam.
You kind of invented the
It
whole
was suspended, right? It was like you were hanging from wires.
Yeah,
That's
we
the
hung the
master
chair.
over
thing. No
there.
kidding.
You haven't seen it yet, have you?
No, I didn't know that's what I thought it was an actual Steadicam because I understand that.
It would have been a lot easier. if it
No,
was
Right.
a
he
Steadicam.
invented what became
Came the Steadicam.
He needed the camera to move. He needed to follow Kitty Wynn or be ahead of Kitty Wynn, and then
Right.
as they raced up the stairs,
Right.
you know, the audience, they got to a point where they just didn't want to go down the hallway. Well, half of it is what Owen did. What he did is he created, so he's ahead of the actors that are racing. Well, how do you get on a flat surface up a curved staircase, and go up and then come around and down that other hallway? How do you do that? So they had to create the equipment to
That's
do it.
pretty
And that's
cool.
what this shows you, all the equipment that they created in order to allow the camera to be in a position and the lenses he used and everything.
Right.
That's what I've learned from Owen over the years, and that's what the audience will finally see. Or you speak to Billy Friedkin and you learn all these secrets that people never knew.
Now I understand what you're saying. No, I did not see the documentary, which explains all this, obviously.
And
Now because of that, I want to see
There's a
it.
few different
Oh, please
documentaries.
do.
of
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
There was a scene. It was cool too because, you were 12, and then you have to stab your crotch with a cross and say, let Jesus fuck you. There's some harsh things for a 12-year-old to say, and they were saying this how he was just kind of, you're like, I'm not going to do that. He was like, come on, yes you will. It was like this playful relationship you had with him.
Well, one of the things which I knew but others didn't realize was a lot of the things were not in the script. Now, as far as the crucifix scene, which was, of course, it's so controversial, finally the audience gets to see there's nothing to do with the reality of the situation. They show how many cameras, how many, all the lighting. They show the box that was used. They show the this, the that. There's like 30 different angles. I'm never really doing what it appears.
Well, I would
to
hope
look
not. Right.
Yeah,
But
that'd be
I'm
real
never
method
even
acting.
in a situation where, so for me, and of course, the other thing that this talks about is children. They finally come forward and say, children don't know anything, A, about religion. B, I was raised Protestant, not Catholic, so the devil was just fictitious to me. And it was just, why are we playing this monster? This is just a really bad monster. I don't like this monster, but I had to do what I had to do. And so with the crucifix scene, it wasn't like they said to me, now this is what it means. There was no description of
Was
any
there
of
any
that.
any
It's like,
parental
you just
concern,
need
though?
to put this cross into this box.
Right.
And this is the different angles we'll shoot from. That's all it was.
Was there any parental concern about the script and you being so young and being in this movie?
Well, one of the things Billy Friedkin talked about, even just last night, was that there was a person of that age, whether they started in Hollywood and Chicago and went around the country, it was very difficult. And a lot of people thought that Reagan was supposed to be sick. So a lot of maybe the healthier kid actors or something were not necessarily put up for the job. In New York, I came through an agency called William Schuller, which probably doesn't exist anymore. And I did all my commercials and modeling, and I had planned to quit acting. I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Really?
And that's always been, was I worked to save my money to go to school. That's what my mother explained to me. So I had asked her if I could quit. And that, within 3 weeks, The Exorcist, the interview came along. And of course, I would never have thought I'm going to be the one to get it. But he says the minute I walked in the door, he knew, because I was healthy. I was grounded. I did a lot of sports. I did a lot. I'm from Connecticut. So, I worked in New York. It's all good. East Coasters are all good. And so he said he pretty much knew immediately. But it took 3 months where we would sit and talk about everything in life just to make sure how grounded I was. And I think and thank God, because I think the challenge was they even looked at 17-year-olds to play younger.
Wow, yeah.
The challenge is trying not just to withstand the job, but nobody could foresee the aftermath of what happened in the press all over the world. The minute, no matter where I went, people thought I was the devil. No matter where I went, they thought that I could answer every religious question ever known in history.
that's
no matter
hilarious.
where.
People
And
are
so,
dumb.
They are
I'm
dumps.
15 years old, and so I've had a whole different thing for my entire life, and we won't go into how old I am. You can find it on the internet, LindaBlairWorldHeart.org. You can find out, and I've been challenged with listening to the questions over the years. Oh, God, here we go again. Not that question.
Yeah.
What's the most common or annoying one?
Oh, you're so funny.
What's a common or annoying one that you get?
What? Nothing's annoying. It's all very pleasant.
Yes. What's a common one?
People don't want to hear that. They want to hear how much I think it's fun and entertaining.
No,
And
they
I
want to
know
hear.
No, they do wanna
want to
hear
hear
that
this part too. Because
yeah,
we're all human in the end.
Sure.
What one question just enough already?
Yeah, there's got to
that
be
they
some
asked
that you
it.
hear over and over, and you're like, all right, already.
Got to be the
And,
stupid.
and we can
pea
help you
soup.
out because we got a pretty big audience. Maybe
gotta
they
be
won't
like-
ask it as much.
Give me a few minutes.
Goddamn pea soup question,
Right.
probably.
Probably a pea soup question.
How did you get the pea? All right.
Was that pea soup?
Yeah, what was that? Pea soup or something? Would they shoot at
Oh my God, you figured it out! Yes.
Super soaker? What they use?
Do you know what I didn't know? And this bummed me out to learn. Max von Sydow was young. That was all makeup.
That bummed you out.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like, that son of a bitch. The makeup was so good. Max von Sydow.
Okay, but let's talk about who did that. Dick Smith. Okay, Dick
Yep.
Smith, the master of all masters. You wouldn't have special effects makeup. You wouldn't have Rick Baker, who's won all the Academy Awards. He was the apprentice on The Exorcist.
Oh, wow, really?
So you wouldn't have anything without Dick Smith. And of course, at the time, I despised him because he's the man that put all this horrible makeup and the glue and everything on my face, and it hurt and it burned, and I hated him. They put shampoo in my hair to make it dry. That's how I achieved that beautiful look. And so that is the man that he created so many different incredible famous makeups, but he did with nobody realized that Max von Sydow was only like 45, I believe.
Oh, really?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he was this young person, as was I, and every day we were in the makeup room and they were having to put these intense makeups on us, you know.
What did you think when you? Because I know you said that you realized when you saw that you're like, my life has changed forever. But doing a film, or you're there, when you finally saw it from an audience point of view, and you saw how horrifying it was. I mean, because there was no William Friedkin joking, there was no camera to look at. It was just when you saw what people were seeing. What was your impression of it?
So I mean, it in the DVD, in the Blu-ray, it shows you the other side of it. But understand that although we talk about the joking and the love, we're a year and a half. It's intense. Everything about it is extremely intense. You cannot make this type of film without it being the most professional, dedicated people working very hard. So there's a seriousness to it. But if you know what I call the boys club, which would be, let's say, Billy Friedkin, he's not only is he a genius, but he's one of the most unique personalities ever in history that I have known. You wouldn't get the French Connection. You wouldn't get The Exorcist without. He's a very big personality, and then he's really, really intense. And there isn't anything that doesn't go without him seeing nothing, everything on the table. He probably would take a picture in his head of everything you have on this table, and he will make sure in every single shot from there on, it's exactly where it was.
Right.
I've never, and so he laid the groundwork for me to become as professional as I am, to make sure that everything is as it should be, and to be serious about your work. So yes, we laughed and joked sometimes, but the tone of the set was pretty
But when you
serious.
saw, what I'm saying is, did it scare you when you saw it removed from
I
it?
can never be scared of myself. I'm the only one that can have.
So you're the only one that's not scared by this movie.
But also, no, and everybody in that was part of the production would look at it, and they remember that took 15 different shots to create one scene.
Yeah, it's too
It
technical
took
to be
months.
scared
There
of.
you go. It was so
much
technical
work going into it.
that's all we can look at it. See, I can look and go, oh my God, that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
I lost touch after a period of time of how the scenes were working and what was happening, because we might start it on this day, but end up having to come back to it 6 weeks later.
Wow.
So there was no fluidity to it.
Sure.
It was,
Yeah.
So the movie didn't mess you up after you filmed it. I mean, there was rumors going over this way. There was rumors.
you saw that. I couldn't turn my head around fast enough.
There was rumors that you got messed up after the movie. It didn't happen. You were fine. You just wanted to get another acting gig.
Okay, there you go. This is the question. What the
Was that
press,
the question?
Had to be Bobby,
what the,
Grace.
No, right, poor Bobby. What the press did to me at the age of 15, asking things. Well, you couldn't be okay. See, you're looking at me saying, you couldn't be okay, you must be messed up. You couldn't be okay, you must be in a mental institute. And that's around the world. That was the headlines. I'm like, Mom, why are they talking about me like that? So that's why you need to go out and see this Blu-ray, because you need to see that it truly was a job and it truly was professional.
No, that's what I'm saying, is that it didn't mess you up. You were fine.
That's not really what
it
you were
was
saying, Bobby.
But the press, what the press did at the time, that was because nobody could believe I could be normal.
Right.
There's a few people along the way that always knew she's all right, and that were very, very instrumental in the press that made it okay. But on the whole, no, it was a challenge, and it still is.
Did you ever
Doesn't
watch
matter
it?
where I go, because people do that. How could she have survived? But I did.
Right.
But I did.
Did you ever watch it with a
It
boyfriend?
wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. Did I ever watch it with? No.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
when you're
I'm not
17,
I'm not-
18, and
and you have to understand, all of my male love interests through my life were, pretty much involved in the business in some capacity, that it's all professional.
right.
And that just wasn't part of the conversation. They were more having to put up with what the public and the audience and everything
How is
was
that-
constant.
yeah.
That's hard, because you get very protective of me after a while. You start to realize, oh, be quiet. Really? You're really going to ask this poor woman that for the 500,000th time? But it's okay. I know that everybody that meets me the first time, they legitimately remember where they were. They have the question, and I try to respect that. It doesn't mean I don't get worn out and tired from it.
Yeah, without the content of the movie, but it became so iconic. Was it rough for you afterwards? Like, did you still want to act? And because you were talking about quitting before that, and then having such a huge hit with one of the first movies that really got you out there, was it tough coming off of that and going like, oh, great, now I got to...
It never ended. It never ended. Once
Yeah.
the movie came out, I'm still on it. Think about it.
Yeah.
I'm still
talking about
on
it.
But like, it must have been tough to think like, all right, I read this script, I'm going to do another movie, and think like, oh,
No, I
it's
can
not going to
answer
be The
that.
Exorcist. Yeah.
Well, number one, they never knew. They did not even have any type of idea. And again, I've been privy to a lot of information on the inside that is most fascinating, where Bill Blatty and Billy Friedkin would talk about Warner's did not necessarily understand. They didn't know that the film would have the legs that it would have. They thought that it might also crash and burn. And so there was a lot of people that didn't believe, and there was a lot of people that did believe in it. And our wonderful PR person, Ronnie Sass, has an amazing story. For years and years, she just knew in her heart that this movie would be a big hit as a film, from the great novel to the screenplay to a film. She just knew. She's one of the most important people in getting this film into the American theaters here on the East Coast. The East Coast people, they think ahead, and she knew. So after the film came out, it didn't stop. They sent me to England. They sent me to Australia and Japan and all of these different countries, and that's all well and good. However, it then became important for the agency to put me to work. That's how the machine works. That's how the entertainment machine works. You don't get to stop.
Right.
So
Get her out
now,
there
so
and-
that became Airport 75.
She's a hot commodity. Get her out there.
And that became Airport 75, where you have the biggest stars, and
Yeah.
I'm so lucky to have gotten to meet some of them. Myrna Loy and Gloria Swanson. Are you kidding me? But I didn't, as much as I wasn't really sure who they were at the time, I do now. And I do remember, talking with them, Charlton Heston and so on. And then they put Born Innocent. Well, there had never been anything like that. Born Innocent, which was about the children, young teens running away. They're still doing it. They're an abusive household. You don't understand me. They run away. Well, what happens? In the long run, you usually get in trouble. You end up in some type of facility. That's what that movie is about. Sarah T., Portrait of a Teenage Alcoholic. They'd never talk about teens having problems. So now I'm the most
remember that one.
controversial teenager in the
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
I didn't write these projects, but I'm proud of them now. I am proud of them now.
What was your second favorite movie you were in?
I really enjoyed making Sweet Hostage with Martin Sheen.
What was that? Is it?
Repossessed with Leslie Nielsen.
All right.
I was afraid to do that. Everybody's like, you got to do comedy because you're funny and nobody knows you're funny. And
No one
I was
knew
like,
Leslie
no.
Nielsen was funny, that's for sure. And then he came out in
Hello.
Airplane and was hysterical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about the movie with Dean Wormer?
What?
Caged Heat? Anyone?
Was he in that one?
I think so, right?
Dean
Chained
Wormer
Heat.
from
You were in
Chained Heat.
Chained
from
Heat?
Animal House.
Is that different than Caged Heat?
Oh yeah, different
Yeah.
films.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
so-
that's no. The prison movie has got to be one of the most. That's like Exorcist prison movie. That's
Well, no,
beautiful.
those were a big deal. We did a play in Los Angeles called Women Behind Bars, and it was, that thing ran for like 5 years on Sunset Strip. It was a parody. So Chained Heat actually was supposed to be, it was a different script. And way back then you had no control, and that's where all of everything in the last so many years is where you'll see actors will have in there that they have control, so people cannot change the content. And so that film actually is one of those. And someday when I write my autobiography, you'll read about my feelings about the film. I know some people like
Oh, that doesn't mean.
it. It's not the film that I signed to
You
do.
felt the concentrate. I'm probably going to guess probably more on this, on the sexy girl on girl stuff instead of the story.
No, it just it was a good story, but we never shot it.
Shot something
I'm still
completely
waiting for that
different.
movie to come out.
Yeah, where's that one?
Where's that story? Why am I? Why are we always in this prison?
What did you think about the?
Yeah, that's
the-
how I learned to take control of my life.
What did you think about The Exorcist 2?
John Borman just came off of winning the Academy Award. Louise Fletcher, James Earl Jones, Richard Burton presented with a screenplay that was brilliant. It's not the movie we shot. And that's what it really goes back to. And if anybody wants to study film history or understand, it's almost becoming a lost art, and they were talking about that last night, where films themselves, every time you put them into a theater, they get scratched, they get dirt, they get dusty. The archiving them, and again back to the DVD and the Blu-ray, they have taken this and made sure that forever in history, the people will be able to see the most perfect version of The Exorcist, and so. That's what people forget about archiving and keeping these films intact so that you can forever appreciate them. But they rewrote the script about 5 times. And what I always say is nobody can take away the fact that I got to work with Richard Burton. Because I for one, am a massive fan.
Did you not like the final film, though? When you saw The Heretic, did you not like it?
I felt that it just wasn't the screenplay we signed to do. And so it lost some of the effect for me, and I think for much of the audiences, it could have been good. It's some people get in there and see some interesting sides of it. Again, it's I'm not one to I'm not, if you can tell, I'm not the type that trashes stuff.
Yeah, we could read between the lines.
It's so hard to make films. If people understood how hard it is, the fact that anything ever gets made.
Right.
So when something really stands out and is brilliant, then wow.
Sure.
Now, what's your foundation over here?
Thank you for asking.
Little puppies.
Many people
They're
know
adorable.
about my work with the animals. It's called the Linda Blair World Heart Foundation, lindablairworldheart.org. I am from Connecticut. We were raised with animals. On the East Coast, we're, all pretty much used to the country, and you respect things and life. And so it's for animal and human welfare. I became involved with the environment many years ago, and from there I became a vegetarian. I became a vegan, and I started doing rescue along the way.
You're one of those people that are a pain in the ass to take out to dinner.
No, it's so easy. It's so easy now.
Yeah, they're always
really
looking at your rice. You gonna eat your rice?
No, I eat food. I gotta eat. That's the whole misunderstanding about all that. When people go, here's some vegetables and some lettuce. I'm like, what do I look like, a rabbit? No, I have to eat. I like to eat. But so I do rescue. I'm based in California. I did Hurricane Katrina and went down there, and for 2.5 weeks slept in the back of a truck and helped rescue. And then I pulled 51 dogs I became responsible for, and I have 3 left that are just either one is extremely shy, one was a little sick. She's doing well. I just kept an eye on her, and the other one is just a little bit too powerful for the average bear. But we do rescue, so I encourage people to go on the website and to contribute in your communities. Forget about all the big agencies. Just contribute in your community. Find out a shelter. And I don't care if you work with children, the elderly, the homeless. Do something. That's how I was raised. That's how I give my tithings. That's my spirituality.
Those late night commercials with the poor little kitten with the eyes all shut and stuff. Oh, those are tragic.
You don't use sad music to get our donations, do you?
I hate those.
I hate
don't
the
have
sad
any
music.
music.
thing.
That's scary.
I don't
That's
have
good.
any
We
music.
like that.
Poor little
That's sad
puppies.
music. It's like, okay, I get it.
I do the shelters. We do a lot of dumping on the streets, and that here in New York. And I do a lot of signings over in New Jersey. Some of the fall Halloween shows, Chiller.
Yeah, sure.
Really?
And so I'm up to par with some things that happen in New Jersey. And I always ask people, if you come in person, I'll give you some information of what you can do to help, because people do some pretty bad things to some of the animals, and people can help. I volunteer. I always have.
Did you ever have a weird interview?
People are creeps.
Before, what was the weirdest interview you ever had? Maybe at a Children's Theater or something? Anything stands out?
No. Weird like how?
I don't know. You tell me. You've had a lot of people talk to you. Any strange interviews?
No. I mean, some of them, it's just
Everyone's
communicating.
courteous.
Okay, let's put it this way. We're all talking, right?
Right.
But if you think about it, and the world is at war now, and there's some people have a little problem with communication. And I am surprised as a planet that we communicate at all. If you think about it, everybody has their own religious beliefs. Everybody has their own day planned out, and sometimes like, dude, you just don't fit in my plan. Not everybody is very respectful.
You know what, dude? You got
of
your
it.
plan. You got your thing.
I don't like you, man. No, but everybody's got an agenda, and it just, the fact that we can all get along at all is pretty miraculous. Weird. It's just when you get somebody that you just don't get along with.
Well, we might have had a weird interview with you. That's all.
That was a long time ago.
Do you remember us?
Huh? No. Oh, did you do something to me that I
No.
didn't like you?
Well,
Not bad.
it wasn't bad.
It was
we were
just-
very excited to talk to you.
We were just being stupid. That's all.
I might have it.
No.
I don't have to play the whole thing. You'll laugh. You said you have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
You're terrible.
What? I want to see if she remembers this. Ready for this?
Linda Blair. The power of Christ compels you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo-hoo!
Power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ.
And I won't bore you anymore, but we did that for 2 straight minutes until you hung up.
never
You know
stopped.
what? I remember that. and you didn't talk to me at all, right?
No.
I think I got up. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning
I
in
need
California, and that was how.
And you needed that, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you called back, and we did the exact same thing. We never asked you a question.
Now, see, was that polite?
No, we were awful. We just did it to throw him
Did
under
that
the
make?
bus.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you
It was-
thought you were funny. Now, how many people wrote in and said what idiots you were not to
a
talk
lot,
to me?
yeah.
A lot of
Yeah, yeah.
idiots, but a lot
Some
of idiots.
some people like me,
No.
and some don't.
We like you.
Some people want to talk
No,
to
no,
me, but no, not you
No,
guys.
he gave Linda. No, he gave you the phone. He gave you the phone, and so we knew that exactly. That's the. She made a face like, "Who is this person?"
Yeah.
It's just Big Kev.
Big Kev.
And he handed you the phone to call us, and then we just did that because then you would have to hand him back the phone, and he would just be uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was more to make him really uncomfortable.
And then we figured we'd talk to you eventually, and 10 years later, look, here you are.
You're lucky. You're
See,
lucky.
there was no Bluray back then.
Yeah,
see,
see?
we waited until the Blu-ray was coming out. And...
There won't be a 3D, just so you know.
Oh, really? Okay.
No.
Freakin has promised there won't be.
Good.
You might not see me again for this particular film. You might see me with Animal Rescue and all of that.
The documentaries
Tell
were
me in a
great.
year.
They were great. I watched them, and they were
I
really,
can't wait to watch
really
it
great.
now. I can't wait.
To see her in the makeup,
With the
behaving like
milkshake,
a,
you were saying.
Well, that was she was in the hospital with the milkshake.
I know, but I'm just you brought that up earlier.
To see her is amazing.
Okay,
in
now
those
here's
scenes.
a question I have for you. This
soup?
is I came up with this. Okay, you know how everybody has a job. You have a job so that you can have things, whether it's food on the table, a car, provide things for your family, food, clothing, shelter, whatever. Okay, but everybody works for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So for me, my reason was so if you want me to do that, then you have to have some kind of carrot. For me, it was a milkshake. Of course, now it has to be a soy milkshake.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
But at 12, a milkshake is good
But
enough.
that's what the whole point. That was the carrot. So if they really wanted me to do something, it was that and tuna subs. I used to have a thing for
Must have
tuna
had great
subs.
farts.
I didn't have that issue.
Tuna and fucking milkshake.
That's how they actually got the
Yeah.
breath to show up in the cold. That's great.
Wow.
That was. I did just fine, thank you. I'm sorry. So, I encourage everybody. Then next
She's
time
done
they
with us.
see me or people talk to me, they can say, "You know what? This film, it was genius. It's amazing." Didn't know, and I encourage people, be the best you can at anything you do in life. Be kind to your neighbor, make the world a better place.
And again,
Nice
October
Linda Blair
5th
is.
on Blu-ray, and it's just great.
Let's
Yeah.
not forget Owen in the corner there.
I
Owen.
know.
course, we didn't
Owen,
forget
thank you
Owen.
so
It's
much.
great talking to
about
Thank you,
Owen.
Owen.
We
Waking me
love
up here.
Owen.
We talked
I know,
to him
right?
before.
We talked to him before you got here, Linda.
I was your lead-in today.
I know you were. I know you were.
We have to wrap up. They want to.
Yeah, we got to get you
Yeah.
out
Hey,
of here
everybody,
for
take
other
care.
interviews.
Thank
you.
you
Linda
All
so
right.
much.